So, all right, now I'm going to pass this off to Lakesha.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to share Supply STL with you today. Um, Again, my name is Lakesha Mathis, and as Tom shared, I'm the vice president I'm one of a couple vice presidents here at Greater St. Louis, Inc., but in my role, I get to lead our small business support efforts, which we call Supply STL. So for the past couple of years, I've had the pleasure of collaborating with our regional partners to develop, launch, and then start to scale this impactful regional initiative. And it's essentially changing the way we support small businesses in the region. I know Tom referenced that we've supported a lot of diverse small businesses, but when we think about diverse small businesses, we think about diversity more in terms of location, size, and access to resources, right? We know that many of our urban small businesses and residents face many of the similar challenges as rural residents. I have been also fortunate in my life that I've lived in a very rural town for most of my life and then moved to St. Louis when I was about 15 years old. So I've had that experience, and I remember having Wi-Fi connectivity issues there, and I still do when I go back. And then when I go to the north side of St. Louis, I have the same issues. So a lot of the similar challenges facing our urban and our rural partners. So what is Supply STL? You'll see on the screen there that we've defined as Supply STL as an initiative that's building a stronger, more economically resilient small business ecosystem by connecting small businesses with the right resources and opportunities to grow their business. Um, Additionally, Supply STL is a collaborative solution to a fragmented small business support ecosystem. You'll see on the screen there a sampling of some of the ecosystem partners we work with. There are lots of them there, but what we do know is that from all the research we've conducted is that St. Louis has a very robust small business support ecosystem. There are lots of organizations and resources available for small businesses, but often these organizations are limited in their capacity to create impact. And it also limits small businesses because when you got to look through a listing of a million resources, which one do you pick? So, Supply STL is driving economic growth through the support of our small businesses and that ecosystem coordination piece. Supply STL also supports small businesses with access to contracts, capital, and capacity building support. And when we talk about our ecosystem of partners, we're talking about over 100 resource providers, and that they live in all 15 counties of the St. Louis MSA, which includes those 8 counties also in Illinois. So why does Supply STL matter? Again, back to the point that there are lots of resources there in our ecosystem. There are lots of studies we've done, and there's also even lots of capital in our ecosystem, but businesses actually find a really difficult time identifying what's the best fit for them. So Supply STL comes into play as a partner in small business support, coordinating and connecting all of those resources and the businesses that need those resources together in a more impactful way. You'll see on the screen here that it says we're doing procurement as a pathway to small business growth. What we know about this region is that GSL has over 700 investors. I think right about now with our chamber affiliate program, that puts us well over 1,000, it may even be a couple thousand now, of investors in our organization. And those investors collectively spend over $2 trillion or have over $2 trillion in global revenue, which means there's a huge pot for supply chain purchasing. And then matched with these anchors' desire to connect with small businesses, local businesses for their supply chain needs, activates the work that Supply STL does. We do a lot of vendor matching. You'll see there, matching suppliers with actual corporations who want to buy their goods and services. We also work with our anchor partners to pilot vendor opportunities. And that essentially means that we'll work with an organization, let's say the St. Louis Zoo. They're interested in purchasing more things locally. We'll help them identify small businesses that can start with a small contract with them and build onto that contract until it's one that actually completely meets the zoo's needs and allows that business to grow. And we do that through a suite of wraparound support services. So that is a little bit of what supply is and why it's important. I also wanted to take a few minutes to share with you some of our early wins and some of the momentum that we are getting from those wins. We categorize these wins and the momentum in three categories. You'll see on the screen small business support. And through our small business support channels, we've supported over 200 small businesses, connecting them with capital connections and resources. We've also worked very closely with the City of St. Louis in their small business tornado recovery support efforts. And that meant everything from being on the ground, going door to door, helping small businesses complete assessments, to being a partner in identifying funding resources to get business owners back to work. Then I'm going to hop over to the regional procurement piece. And that's the regional procurement and the supply chain support that we've done. So since 2024, when we launched this initiative, we've worked very closely with our corporate partners to identify vendors to meet their supply chain needs. We've matched over a couple dozen businesses with more than a couple $1 million in contracting opportunities. We also partner with folks here in the region to put on a supply chain conference. And in that conference, small businesses have an opportunity to hear from larger corporations about what those corporations are purchasing and how to plug in with those corporations. And there's also a few capacity building workshops at these types of conferences. And I'm going to jump over to the ecosystem building part, which is the part, is you probably can tell, makes me smile because I like working with people so much. So the ecosystem building part is all about collaboration and coordination, really working with our partners to identify best ways to support small businesses. So from the ecosystem building work, we've been able to establish a small business support collaborative with many of the folks that you saw on a previous screen. And that collaborative is well over 100 folks now. In that collaborative, we've been able to expand the small business navigator model. And what a small business navigator is, small business navigators are essentially small business support individuals, small business support coordinators, those folks that kind of serve as a front door to organizations' small business resources. So with that, we've elevated that model to now, of our 100 partners, about 20 of them have identified small business navigators. And those navigators are the people that help businesses to navigate that really robust ecosystem of resources. Some more of the work looks like launching last week, actually last Thursday, we had the pleasure of launching the Small Business Support Collaborative Toolkit. And it's actually a document filled with tools that helps us to formalize and strengthen our support channels. It makes it easier for us to near seamlessly connect businesses with the resources they need and talk to each other as ecosystem small business support partners. That collaborative group that developed this toolkit, they created a set of standard outcomes and metrics, and those are the things that guide the work that these navigators do and measure if it's working or if we need to pivot or if we need to just throw the whole thing out and start all over again. Another thing I would say is a fun fact about me is I like building things. So I'm never opposed to what we've built not being the right resource, but I am committed to creating and identifying and creating the right resources for small businesses. This toolkit includes small business assessments that help our support partners assess the capacity of small businesses and more seamlessly align them with the resources that'll help them increase their capacity. And lastly, in that toolkit, we have a partner survey, because as a partnership, we need to be able to report on the impact of the work that we're all doing together. So our partner surveys allows Greater St. Louis Inc. to collect data about the number of small businesses in our ecosystem that have been supported through our support channels. And when I say our, in this instance, I mean all of our partners. So it is giving us data on how many businesses that the 100 plus partners have supported. It also helps us understand how many businesses have had access to capital through our supports and connection with supply chain opportunities. And it also measures the effectiveness of our collaboration. And with this data, we imagine being better positioned to attract funding for our ecosystem partners, because similar to many larger business attraction opportunities or economic development opportunities, partners that fund those opportunities are looking for regions that have their stuff together, right? That are collaborating, that know who's doing what, and are working collectively to move that thing forward. In the past, we've seen these art organizations all go after $2 million grant, and it's only $2 million, and then the funder is forced to choose just a couple folks to give the grant to. No, none of the folks in our region, or we all get $50,000, which doesn't move our programs very far at all. So what we've consistently heard, and why we shifted to this model, is that if we could do this more collaboratively, instead of dividing a couple million between 50 organizations, this collaborative has the capacity to attract the 2 million as a whole collaborative and collectively support the small businesses more effectively. Another thing, or another tool that we have brought to bear in the small business ecosystem in St. Louis, is the region's first best-in-class digital portal. This portal is free and available to anyone. It enables our ecosystem partners to recruit and support small businesses more seamlessly. It also helps small businesses identify resources that help them scale to meet needs. This portal also has a listing of businesses in the region. That business listing is growing, and this is specific to small businesses when we say the business listing. And the other listings on the EcoMap are resources. It's our larger corporations that have vendor portals that allow small business owners to become a vendor for their organization. So this tool essentially connects folks digitally when there isn't a navigator in the room to do the work for you. This tool was launched in 2024, but we've spent much of 2025 reimagining it, scaling it, and making it something that is more user-friendly for small businesses and our ecosystem partners. So take a minute here to just talk a little bit about the traction that we're seeing. And I am so excited for this traction that we're gaining, because we're really just beginning. We're only a couple years old, and we've been able to support over 200 businesses as an initiative. But for me, I'm excited for the end of this year, where we get to baseline some of that data. And what that means is all of our partners will, for the first time, be reporting their data on business support, capital access, which will bump that 200 number up to over 1,000 really, really quickly. So we are excited for that. So the toolkit essentially serves as a support for partners as they assess small business support and connect small businesses more effectively to resources. So I'm at a chamber event today, so you're probably wondering, what does this mean for a chamber, or how can a chamber engage with something like this? As I was putting together this presentation, I was having a couple thoughts. The first thought was, well, actually, chambers have similar sets of members as Greater St. Louis Inc. I'm sure you have some large corporations. I'm sure you have some small businesses, and maybe you even have what we would consider ecosystem partners that actually support small businesses. So when I look at this slide, I'm thinking that there are members throughout your organization that be able to pick where they would best fit in for support. But as a chamber, as the Coeur-Olivette Chamber, we would say you fit in the middle. You are an ecosystem partner of ours. We invite you to join the SUPPLYSTL Partner Network. Everyone on the call, it doesn't cost you anything. What that network does is we meet quarterly. We meet 4 times a year, and in those meetings, we're typically discussing challenges that small businesses are facing and how can we create solutions to address those challenges. It's really, I always say it's always a focus group meeting. Essentially, we come in with like, here's the big thing, and we walk away with, here's what we're going to do next to address that problem. The other thing that I invite your organizations to do is to adopt the Small Business Support Toolkit. The toolkit is a roadmap for how your small business counselors can support your small businesses more seamlessly and connect them with resources throughout the ecosystem. Which gets us to the next thing: connect your clients with a small business navigator. And I always say that one this way: when you have a small business client that needs support beyond your resources, that's when you connect them to the ecosystem. Because sometimes what a business needs in Olivet is going to be best served by the Olivet Chamber of Commerce. But when they're thinking more broadly, they want to start to trade internationally. They want to plug into the broader St. Louis supply chain. Supply STL would love to be your partner in making sure that they have those opportunities, which takes us really quickly into the identifying procurement ready firms. I think this probably is a Chamber of Commerce thing, but it pulls in that small business owner piece. When there are small businesses that join your chamber and they're saying, hey, we love networking, because we do, and I do too. But we also want to know, how can we get some procurement opportunities? We love to be a part of that conversation and say, hey, what are you selling? I always start with, who's your dream client? Who do you want to sell to the most? Because that's what I want to help you with our support get to. I want you to get to your dream client, because I believe that if we get you to your dream client, the other clients will flow in, because you'll be doing the most to get that dream client, and doing that will attract other opportunities to you. Every time I do this presentation, I amaze myself how quickly I'm going, because I am at the end, and I think you guys gave me 30 minutes. So I want to leave some time for questions as well. But as I wrap up, I just want I just want to say, this is something that we could not do if it were not for the ecosystem. This is not something that Greater St. Louis Inc., myself or my team, have the capacity to do without that network of over 100 other ecosystem partners. As you can imagine, more brains are better than fewer, right? One brain gets us so far, but when we can get 100 folks thinking deeply on challenges, we're more likely to come up with a solution that solves problems for more people. So as we move through the next few years into 2030, we're looking at how we scale for impact. And for us, that means deepening and scaling the partner network. So although I keep talking about this over 200 partners, over 100 partners and 200 small businesses, what we do know, because our data team tells us often, Lakesha, there's 55,000 small businesses in this region. So there's lots of work, guys. So when we talk about deepening and scaling our partner network, that means plugging in with more of our chambers, because we know that the chambers are where small businesses show up all the time, and we see chambers as a key connector for this work. The other thing we're going to be thinking about is, how do we amplify our procurement success? How do we launch more of those pilot opportunities to get more small businesses plugged into resources? Then how do we tell the story, right? How do we tell the story that lands us on a national business magazine talking about how ecosystems grow? We want to be that ecosystem, and we want partners in doing that. And you see here we have strengthened strategic partnerships, which I arguably say fits in with our first data point, because we need to strengthen scale and deepen those relationships, because that's how we're going to be able to move this thing forward. And most importantly for me, it's the measuring the impact and communicating our ecosystem's growth. Is how are we able to say that this is the #1 region for small businesses, and how do we all make it that? A part of one of the exercises that we did with the group as we built out that toolkit was, we started with a simple question: what is the dream ecosystem? And everybody looked at me puzzled at first, like, what do you mean? It's one where? And I said, before you start listing it, write it down, because those are the things that we're going to go toward. It's one where all businesses have opportunities for supply chain, if that's what they choose. But it's also one where our corporations are able to find vendors to meet their supply chain needs. It's one where businesses grow. It's one where we create more jobs. So they took all of that, and all of that is what's informed that toolkit. So when we talk about measuring and communicating, we really want to be able in the next 4 to 5 years to say, St. Louis is the place to come to grow small businesses of all size. Whether you have an idea and you want support getting it started, or whether you're mature and you're thinking about how do you scale over the next 5 to 10 years before you pass this thing on to your kids or to someone else in your family to take it forward, or even to sell it. Because if the business is only worth something for you, it's probably not worth very much on the market. So it has to be a business that is market ready and valuable to our region. And as I wrap up, I just want to call out a couple things, and that is we live from a place of let's build a strong St. Louis together. We again know that this is not something that GSL, the Supply STL team, can do alone, but it's definitely something that we can do as a collaborative ecosystem. You'll see the QR code on the screen. That QR code will take you to that Supply STL Network Navigator that I shared with you a few screens back. If your organization isn't on there and you want it on there, we invite you to add it, or we invite you to reach out to the Supply STL team and we'll put it on there for you. We also invite you to connect with our team. We have a team of three. I am the vice president. I get to lead that team, but we have two dynamic navigators, Isaiah and Maria, and those folks are able to help you with really specific questions. I like to say to them, your superpower is that you have the freedom and the encouragement to work with businesses until they get what they need. A lot of our partners don't actually have a team as big as ours, so they're limited in their ability to support businesses over time. We don't necessarily have that problem. We get to spend all day, every day, supporting small businesses, whether it means going with them to those first time meetings or helping them look through their financial statements to make sure that they're aligned with what they're selling, or whether it's just they need to have a brainstorming moment. How do they expand this thing, right? How do you sell your goods and services to more than just the downtown folks? How do you get placed in Schnucks? How do you get on Target shelves? So that is the partner that we want to be. The other thing I would say is if you're interested in the toolkit, unfortunately today it's not available online, but remember we just launched it last Thursday. It will be available online in the coming weeks so that you can download it, you can look at it, you can read it. But more than anything, we want you to try using it and we want you to give us feedback on it. If stuff doesn't work, we want to know because we want to create what actually does work. So when you think about supply, I'm going to say, think about building an ecosystem where our region continues to grow and the small businesses are the backbone that is causing that growth or that is facilitating that growth. It's also a initiative that wants to share its success. Our success is your success. We want you to see yourselves in that success. And again, scan that QR code, check out the network navigator, reach out to our team. I'm actually going to, when I stop talking, I'm going to put our collective email address in the chat. That way, if anyone wants to connect with a navigator, just to learn more about the resources, to share, to connect a business with them, you'll have the email address to connect and you can talk to somebody because as much as we like automatic things or automated things, I like talking to people. So if you want to talk about businesses, we are your partner in doing that. If you want to support businesses, we want to be your partner in doing that too. So you probably can tell already that I like to talk. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to ask you guys if there are any questions that you have, please feel free to come off mute and share those or ask those questions and I'll answer as many as I can. But while I'm doing that, I'll also, oh, Tom, you put the things in the chat, but I also put that the email address in there too. Look, he's all over it. So thank you so much again, Tom and members, because this is what we like to do. We like to get out and share the word about Supply STL because we know it's only going to be as great as the number of folks that we have given us feedback about it. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop right there and invite you guys to share or ask any questions.
Well, while you're thinking of your questions, one thing I'll point out to you as you know, as the Coeur-Olivette Chamber of Commerce is an affiliate membership with Greater St. Louis Inc. If you haven't done it already on our website, I'll just share this with you real quick. On our members benefit page, which you can just click the join section and then hit member benefits. There's a section here with Greater St. Louis Inc. And if you click this register here for newsletters, this will pop up and then you can actually click the information that you want from Greater St. Louis Inc. So if you haven't done that, we didn't automatically send everybody those emails. We want people to select the information they wanted to receive. So
Yeah.
so I just wanted you all to be aware of that. I put the link in the chat for Supply STL and for the navigator, which he was pointing out to you, the link to the Supply network navigator. um, which I think you guys can see on the screen, right? Can you see that page?
It's coming.
Oh, I might not have showed you the other one. I didn't know. Did you guys see the screen I showed earlier of this or this? Probably not.
Nope. But now we do.
Okay, because this is the homepage, and if you guys ever go to the member benefit section, this is where Greater St. Louis Inc. is here. You click on for the newsletter of all their events and stuff.
And I would say, even if you do it temporarily, I would sign up for the newsletters. We have some, and maybe I'm biased. We have some pretty robust newsletters, and they tell you get all kinds of information. So I know occasionally I will, even though I work here, I will unsubscribe because we have lots of them. I need to focus, and I can read those newsletters every time they come. So I'll unsubscribe, and then somebody from comms will come over and say, Lakesha, resubscribe to the newsletter. But there is always good information in there about events that are going on downtown, opportunities to plug in, all kinds of things.
Right. So that's why, you can select the type of information you want. But like Lakeisha said too, like I put in their link for the supply STL information here, and there's also the link here that takes you to the navigator. And um, and I guess Lakeisha, what would you suggest if someone wants to like jump in on this to program? What's the first step? Is it to go to this site and then try to meet the team? What would you say is the
I would say if you are a small business and you go to this site, the first thing you should do is click on, if you'll scroll back up, Tom, to the
okay?
top, and I would click on Explore Resources. That's the first thing I would do because we intentionally made this something that folks could self-service. Because we know small business owners that are up late nights and we're not available late nights. So we want you to be able to click on those resources. If you are what we would call an ecosystem partner, we would say, click on the resources, see if your organization is there. And if it's not, let us know because we want it to be there. And then the second thing I would say is go to the events. Are your events there? If they're not, let us know. We want your events there. I would
Oh,
also say meet the navigators, right? See who are those
sorry.
people. That's okay.
I,
Yep.
no, you're fine. I realized the events is over here, right?
Yep. Yep.
To the left.
Yeah, I would say look at some of that stuff. If you're a large corporation and you want to know about small businesses in the region, I would go to organizations. I would click that drop down area, Tom, the drop down arrow on organizations along the menu on the side. Yep, I would click that drop down under organizations. So they drop
Yep.
down. The drop down will say businesses, resource providers, or service providers. If you're looking for businesses, I would click on businesses because there you'll find a robust list of businesses of all sizes that can meet whatever needs you look. We have construction folks, we have caterers there, we have consultants there, we have janitorial
So we all
companies
need to get
there.
our businesses in there, is what you're saying.
Yes,
We need to
I
add
would say,
ourselves in
and
there.
I would even offer this, Tom. If you guys have a list of small businesses that you want on there, instead of going by onesie twosie and adding them, I would say if you put them in a spreadsheet and send them to that Supply at Greater St. Louis Inc. Email address, our team will put them on there for you. So I know you probably have a handful of small businesses and those that want to be on there. It doesn't cost you anything to be on there. You won't be getting any unwanted emails or messages because we've purposefully made it so that folks can come on and select what they want to receive on this website as well. We try not to bombard folks with a whole bunch of unnecessary emails. We want you to just to get the things that you want. Then if you were to scroll down, so there are the navigators. So there are some of our navigators. There are a couple missing spots because some folks have transitioned roles, which is another reason why we created this initiative, is because as folks move from organization to organization, what we found is that often the connection that your organizations may have leaves when that leader leaves, right? So for us, we want these connections to be at the organizational level and not the individual level. Isaiah is on my team, and there's a little bit about Isaiah right there. If you're logged in, you'd be able to contact him and it goes straight to his email. You can find him on LinkedIn. So it's a pretty cool resource. So if you're a small business, get yourself listed on there. If you're looking for other small businesses, go to the small business list, and there are lots of businesses on there. I think in the next couple of weeks, we'll be adding over a couple thousand businesses to that, because again, GSL has a data and research team that makes sure that we have access to those types of things. So if you wait a couple of weeks, your small businesses might be on there. Because the data
Yeah.
we use comes from the US Census, and so some of those businesses might show up just because we're going to dump a lot of them on
Yeah.
there.
So does anyone have any questions? I know that I kind of jumped in and shared a lot of that because I just sometimes when people talk about a site, I want to know how to utilize it and communicate. So I just thought I appreciated you going through that with us. A lot of
Absolutely.
great information, a lot of great opportunities for us to continue to highlight our region, which is exciting. Um, but anybody on the call have anything that they have any questions about, you can just unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
And if you don't have any questions now, you have questions later, you have the email address. I'm sure, Tom, you can share, you have my contact information. If folks reach out later and want to connect or want to ask more questions, please feel free to share that. Again, like I said, I love talking to people. So anytime you reach out, I'm probably gonna respond so quickly, it'll make you be like, what is she doing? Is she gonna say? It's like, I'm waiting for people to
Yeah.
talk to me.
Well, and when you have that toolkit put together, if you want to let us share that with me, then I'll send that to this group and let them know that it's been you know, published or whatever. So
Yes, yes. As soon as it's on the website, I'll make sure that we send you a link so that you can share it with this group. Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for your time today.
yeah, thank you, Lakesha. Thank you everyone for joining us. And like I said, any last second chances for questions, or we're gonna kind of wrap up for today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Very
you for all the
informative.
info.
Really loved it.
Yes, same.
Great. And I think even on this call, even though we had a small group, I think we had already a good diverse group of industries represented. So I think that it's good information. So I think the more people learn about it, the more they'll be excited about it and know how to utilize it. So thanks again, and we'll be in contact with everybody. And if you guys have any questions after the fact, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll connect you with Lakesha. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.